For those of you who did not know, on February 18th, there were more than 200,000 Christians that marched against gay rights in the U.S. Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. On this day, hundreds of thousands of Christians from different denominations gathered at the Capitol building of the Commonwealth in order to protest against legalizing same-sex marriage, and also, and I quote from this news article, quote, "And while some simply rallied against the idea of same-sex marriage, many were opposed to granting any rights to gay couples, including protections against violence." And I quote farther down in the article, "The wave of protesters blaring gospel music and brandishing large posters alleged that the proposed legislation would discriminate against the church." And a pastor later says, "We are concerned that laws will be created to discriminate against the church. We are concerned that public education will be used to change our children, presenting them with behaviors their parents don't think are correct. This demonstration tells the government that there are things that they cannot touch, and those are marriage and family." Am I the only one that finds it mildly ridiculous that these Christians want to create laws against gay people everywhere in the Commonwealth, while at the same time they're worried about the government creating laws, restricting religious rights, when in fact there aren't any laws there restricting religious rights? This is just another example of extremist Christian hypocrisy rearing its ugly head. And for a final quote, "We chose these politicians to do other things, to improve the economy, to reduce crime, to help health and education, but not to change something as fundamental as marriage, which is between a man and a woman and the family that is born of that relationship." Now tell me, they want to improve everything in their little commonwealth, but they don't want to improve people's civil rights. How does that make sense to you? How can you have a flourishing economy, reduced crime rate, and a good health and education when you are sitting there and ostracizing an entire group of your population? Christians, at least extremist Christians, have been doing this since Christianity began. It started all the way back in the East, European countries, Middle Eastern countries, the Crusades, all of that bullshit. Because it's been nothing about, you don't believe my religion's right, so you're gonna have to abide by my religion. Sorry, do that or die. That's basically how it's going to work. And now that they're proposing that they don't want to support, protection against gay people when it comes to hate crimes, that's just, the same thing right there, but in a different way. Instead of them, raising the knife or hanging the people, it's them giving permission to other people to do it for them. I just want to reiterate that I have nothing against Christians. A lot of my family's Christian, and a lot of my good friends are Christians, and I have nothing against it, and I completely love and embrace and acknowledge their beliefs. And I also understand that there's a lot of good people out there who are Christians, but it's people like these that would much rather throw away other people's rights because of their own beliefs that bothers me. Because how are you living up to your own religion that is centered around love by ostracizing a group of people and basically saying that they don't have a right to marry, that they don't have a right to even be safe? How is that love? And I've had people tell me in the past, well, we can point out to people who are wrong in their beliefs, and that's not judging. I'm sorry, that is judging. When you're sitting there and criticizing somebody else's way of life because it doesn't live up to your standards, that's judging. Look it up in a dictionary. That's judging. Gee, and we wonder why Puerto Rico is not a state yet. I'm frankly glad they aren't, even though they've wanted to do it since they became a commonwealth. In fact, I don't like the fact that they're a commonwealth either. This just shows how hateful a lot of people there are. But yes, if you guys would like to post your thoughts below, you're more than welcome to. I'll also post a link to the news report if you would like reference. But yeah, basically my point in this is saying that I respect religion, I really do, but I think people who have religious beliefs should respect other people as well. You know, our country is a melting pot for a reason. It's culturally diverse for a reason. And I think it's time that other people live by that example. Because there's no more room for hate in my heart, and I think there should be no more room for hate in this world either. And to the LGBTQ community in Puerto Rico, you have my sympathy, and I am sorry that you have to go through this, and I'm sorry you have to deal with such hateful people, and I just wanted you to know that it will get better. It takes time, and it takes patience in order for people to understand, but they eventually will, and I have faith that they will.